Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me once again on this beautiful Halloween, one Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, trick or treat, my friend.
It's probably going to be a trick. Because I maybe tomorrow will be a treat, but I don't think Sunday's going to be a treat.
Oh, man. I mean, stranger things have happened. Pittsburgh Steelers get, for the first time this year, back-to-back home games. They host the 4-3 Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the 7-1 Indianapolis Colts, best team in football right now, and who would ever thunk it with Daniel Jones. I don't know, though. I actually thought that I didn't think the Colts would be this good, but I thought they would actually be improved because Anthony Richardson, which, if you hadn't seen this, he may end up, if he doesn't play another down or throw another pass, or complete another pass, he will end up being the only player in NFL history that's completed one pass the entire season, and that was to himself. It was something along those lines. I'm just like, that's absolutely wild. But yes,
that's very strange.
That is very, well, it's not unheard of. And you saw what the Colts were like last year when Flacco got in there, right? So they're a pretty complete football team. They're a young football team across the board. They, unlike what we were saying with, you're not scared about some of the Green Bay Packers necessarily receivers. Well, you didn't have to worry about the receivers. You just had to worry about
the tight end.
Worry about the tight end, and then they've got a rookie tight end here in Tyler Warren. That's a fantastic one so far, and he completes. You've got Jonathan Taylor, running back. You've got a decent offensive line. You've got a slew of a plethora, whatever you want to call them, of wide receivers. Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell. They're all over the place, and to certain aspects, different consistency among this offense, where we're talking a lot about Colts offense. We're talking a lot about how that's going to affect Steelers defense, of which there's been a ginormous lack of everything. The Steelers are dead last in giving up passing yards on defense. Colts are actually pretty bad too. They're 29th. A little better against the run, but a lot of teams are playing catch up against an offense that's first in the National Football League. The Colts averaging almost 34 points per game. Their takeaways, they're a +8, where the Steelers are a +4. Defensively, they're giving up a little over 19 points per game. That's 6th best in the NFL. You've got the Steelers, who right now are 11th in points scored with 25. That's also what they're giving up on defense on average is 25 points per game. Not at all looking very evenly matched, Brian, but the over-under for this game, 50.5 points. They're expecting the ball to get thrown everywhere. Colts are favored by 3. That's about where I would expect all of it this time of the year and on paper, and we'll discuss some things maybe where the Steelers what they can do, and we'll look at this laundry list of an injury report here in a second as well.
Colts by 3. I'd take that action. I don't think it'll be Colts by 3. I think it'll be Colts by a lot more than 3.
I mean, I'm telling you, we saw big, and I know it's Ben Roethlisberger and it's a different era and it's everything else. I remember some of these high-powered Colts teams coming into Pittsburgh and just getting the doors blown off of them. You know what I mean? I don't have those type of expectations. I'm really trying to lean toward bias. I think the only thing we could really do for any of that is maybe give just a little bit of the factoids of the game before we dig into it.
Yep.
Here we go.
My
maps.
map.
Your maps. The maps are back. So,
what color are we?
Red.
Ah.
You should have realized that with Pittsburgh there. So
That's a good point.
You know what? I'm gonna throw this the little overlay off there so you can see even down in the Florida areas. A lot of people are getting this game, and I can tell you the other games. You've got blue for the 49ers and Giants. You've got green for the Falcons and Patriots. You got yellow for the Bears and Bengals at the same time, and then the Chargers and Titans are orange, and you can barely find that on the map. If you look hard enough, it's just in LA and basically the great state of Tennessee. If it's a great, I don't know if Tennessee's a great state.
This is the first time this map has actually made sense.
I know, except for the Denver market, maybe. Like the whole, you go right through down to Texas, and that's the game that they're getting is. But I mean, the Colts are the better team with football, and the Steelers have a large fan base, so it does make a lot of sense to me. So this one, CBS, if you're in Pittsburgh, KDKA Channel 2. Sorry, I'm saying a lot of O's and ums and everything like that. I'm really trying to collect myself out of a brain fog and really not say some things I'm going to regret about the Steelers. and, I'm more excited about Halloween. I think I got the Reaper might be coming for the Steelers. I don't think he's coming for Mike Tomlin just yet, but Terrell Austin, there's conflicting things. You've got some guys like Chris Carter. Is Chris Carter with DK still? I think so, or maybe he's over with one of the local papers. But he says, you know what, Mike Tomlin doesn't call the plays. That's a common misconception. And you have Jerry Dulac causing a lot of trouble, and he goes, well, Tomlin installs all of this, so if he doesn't call the plays, that's just one little minor thing. And I'm like, Tomlin doesn't walk around with the Waffle House menu like any coaches that you've seen, head coaches that are involved in the play calling. Maybe he needs to be more involved, whatever it may take. So we'll talk about some of these adjustments in a second. Mike Tomlin's 8-3 against the Colts lifetime in his career. 19 seasons as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shane Steichen, can't say his name, Colts head coach. Third season, he's 24-18. He's 2-0 against the Steelers so far. They've been playing the Colts a lot. Almost every year they've had a very similar finish. Yeah, that similar finish that gets you playing the same AFC opponents. At home, the Steelers lead this series 20-3. They won the last one 28-24 back in late December of 2020. And this will be the 45th overall and 40th regular season meeting between these two teams. 1 o'clock kickoff, natural grass. Ian Eagle, JJ Watt, Evan Washburn. We're used to hearing those guys on the CBS call. Rob King, Max Starks, Missy Matthews, Steelers Audio Network, nationwide on Compass Media with Chris Carino and Brian Baldinger. Brian Baldinger always has great takes, so he's going to see this stuff in person and has some awesome tweets coming Monday or Tuesday, so look for those. On satellite radio, Sirius 160, XM 231, Internet 826. Craig Rolstad is your referee. And let's get down to the injury report, Brian. Nitty gritty. I'm going to shut let's see. I don't know what I want to leave on and off the screen here. We have a DNP 2 days in a row for Scotty Miller, not looking good with the finger. I thought he had surgery on it. He did, but he didn't go to IR or something like that. Ben Skowronek back to full practice. Will Howard, who's working within the 21-day window. We'll see that again down further with Malik Harrison and then Corey Trice. They're all in the 21-day windows. Deshaun Elliott going to IR. We'll talk about that move here in a moment. He's also a DNP. He was a DNP on here. You're probably wondering, well, a guy that goes to IR, well, the transaction was officially final as of 4 o'clock yesterday with the trade for Kyle Duggar. So we'll talk about that in a second. I'm actually excited about that. But when talking about some of the things that they could change, you never know. Trice or Harrison could be a part of that equation, probably more so with special teams. Zach Frazier still being babied along from the injury midweek last week. Isaac Seumalo, don't know. Doesn't look good. Doubt he's going to be playing in this game as a DNP for 2 days. We'll see what his Friday prognosis is. Jonnu Smith, resting veteran. Pat Freiermuth popped up with a quad, but he was a full participant Thursday. Daniel Quale also going to IR and out for the season. Literally played one snap in the last game. DK Metcalf, a resting veteran. Newly acquired Kyle Duggar and his former running mate in New England as well, Jabril Peppers, are on here. Nia Quadricep, full participant, limited on Thursday. They had no designation Wednesday. Cole Holcomb, illness, did not practice. And then resting veterans for Cam Hayward and Darius Slay, both on Thursday. The Colts have a bunch too. Nick Cross, safety, returned. Josh Downs returned. Samson Ebukam as a DMP. There's a guy that was, we had him on the show a long time ago.
We had him on the show back in the day.
Back in the day, man, he carved out a pretty nice career for himself in the NFL.
Yes, he did.
Got to say. Matt Gonclaves, formerly at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh tackle here, back to practice. Anthony Gould, a reserve wide receiver, DNP. Then you got Jalen Jones, Tyquan Lewis, Kenny Moore, Braden Smith, all returned to practice, full participant. All of them had some form of designation: knee, hamstring, groin, Achilles. Grover Stewart, defensive tackle, also DNP last 2 days. So the injuries are piling up for everyone, and not unheard of this time of the season, where you've got to fight through what we call like the different adversity and whatnot. So the Colts themselves, I'd say a fairly healthy team for the most part, though, even considering all of the names that we listed on there. It doesn't seem like they've got any major players that are missing, and that's one of the reasons that they've had a lot of success thus far. So getting through all of that, let's talk about the big move right now and how this might factor into what the Steelers are going to do. Kyle Duggar, I don't know how you felt about it. I told you how I felt about it, and I told you what I would do. I haven't been a fan of Chuck Clark. Haven't been a fan of Juan Thornhill. You want to slow down these receivers, tight ends, and also have to stop the run. Jabril Peppers is a guy that can stop the run. I think you had mentioned something, you didn't feel as confident maybe in his coverage skills. And I said, well, can he be much worse than anybody else at this point? Communications wise, I don't know that a lot translates over from New England. Obviously, New England has changed their systems a few times, and Mike Vrabel being in charge now is one of the reasons why Duggar, who just signed a large contract, by the way, of which New England's still eating quite a bit of it, in the final 2 years that are a little bit bigger money have been wiped out as part of this trade. But the Steelers swap a 6th and 7th round pick, their 6th for a New England 7th, and get a quality starting safety that's going to probably play in place of Deshaun Elliott. Now, for communication purposes and some of the lack of communication that we've been talking about, that's why I don't put him out there with Chuck Clark. That's why I don't put him out there with Juan Thornhill. I put him out there with Peppers. I've seen Peppers moving people around. He seems to already have a grasp on. He's telling people where to go. He seems like he's somewhat of a leader. I give him a shot and see what goes with these two. At least they might have a feel for one another on the field at the same time.
Sure.
What can it hurt at this point, right? 32nd ranked pass defense.
That's the bottom line. What they've been doing ain't working. They are atrocious. So sure, try something new. You don't have any choice because Deshaun Elliott is on IR. So they made the move to get a quality starting safety. Duggar's going to come in. I'm sure he's going to be a starter. We just have to wait and see. There is no point in trying to do the same things over and over again that aren't working. So yeah, mix it up. I have no problem with putting Peppers out and Duggar out there. Maybe they do have some synchronicity from having played together in New England. We'll see. My confidence level is so low for this game, I can't even tell you.
I understand it. I'm trying to get geeked up a little bit. I don't think there'll be the same enthusiastic 67,000 fans. Of course, Colts fans, I don't know, are going to be coming in mass like the Green Bay Packers fans were either. Duggar is a versatile chess piece that's played all over the secondary as well. But what this affords you, besides the person calling you for your car insurance or your car warranty, Brian.
No, those are work alerts.
Duggar allows you not having to weaken your, I don't know if you can weaken the scheme. You can't get worse than 32, right? Or 32nd or last in the league. But you don't have to move Ramsey around now. Have Ramsey play safety. You were questioning, Ramsey playing on, the outside. I think you're just asking too much of him and then moving him around. Maybe he does a little bit of that. Maybe he flirts with it while they get Duggar. I don't know that Duggar just jumps right in. Does he play a full game? He's been playing. He has several starts for the Patriots this season alone. and they just wanted to do something different. I still think that he's a very quality player. I feel like he could be a tackling machine. Excuse me. I mean, he fully played each of their last 2 games against the Saints and the Titans as well. So I feel better about putting Duggar out there, even if he gets lost a little bit, than I do. I don't know. I just feel like some of the other guys have lost a little bit of a step. You got to get the secondary to lock down. We talked about this a little bit in the last show. I feel like Joey Porter only gets really targeted. Joey Porter is only noticed when he's flagged. There's a few times where I think, yeah, Joey he's not been physical. He's not been making tackles that he needs to make, but in coverage, I thought he's been fairly solid. I think that Darius Slay, maybe Father Time's caught up Darius Slay. Maybe, you've got just sorry about that. And then I go and double down and hit the microphone again, of course. But just showing off the Reaper here. Maybe Father Time's caught up to Darius Slay. Maybe you got to use him in a different aspect. I saw somebody else talking about all these bird brain kind of moves and trades that you can make there. I didn't think safety would be available, but a safety's probably more available than a starting corner at this point. Premium corners, like somebody's like, well, they could go, maybe Jets aren't going anywhere, go get Sauce Gardner. If the Jets ever want to go anywhere, you don't get rid of a foundational piece. Yeah. And trust me, defense isn't the reason why that team's usually losing either. They don't move the ball on offense. That poor defense is playing 40 minutes a game out in New York. So it's kind of where the Steelers need some complementary football, but just sticking with what can you do a little differently? I don't know. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's schematic. Somebody was talking about this, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but they were like, what else? You say they don't make adjustments, but we saw them move Ramsey over to, move Ramsey around on the field to cover different people, even against the Bengals. You saw them try to attempt to play zone instead of man, and nothing is working no matter what they do here. I think the big chess piece here is, Alex Highsmith's been on and off the field going back to training camp. And then you've got all of these things coming out with the metrics now that kind of back up the things we've been talking about with Nick Herbig being a dude. And we also talked about Nick Herbig maybe being a guy that gets an extension next year. That's the one you want to keep, especially as TJ maybe, he's starting to get into his 30s, and it might be prime time. A little different than what we're talking about with Darius Slay, right? Because speed matters more at those, wide receiver and corner and positions like that. And then, of course, your durability as a running back. You can play until 40-ish, as Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's of the world show you as a quarterback. The less speed you need. The same with offensive linemen. I mean, geez, look at some of the guys playing with the Eagles. Brandon Graham coming out of retirement. You know what I mean? Cam Hayward still playing with the Steelers. I think you got to get Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black on the field. I think these are guys that were brought in to plug up holes, to eat up, take on more than one, take on double teams from opposing offensive linemen. And maybe that's how you get guys like Watt, Highsmith, Herbig free, and maybe you send the occasional blitzer. Patrick Queen has had some success doing that from time to time, but what you can't do is just stand there like a sitting duck and let these out routes and slants kill you again and again and again. It has to be cohesive. The secondary has to do some of their job in order to give the pass rush enough time to get there, because trust me, while Daniel Jones has been playing some good ball, he's still Daniel Jones when you get down to it, and we know what Daniel Jones, what he'll do when he gets pressured, I guess is what I should say, if they could get the pressure to him.
Here's the thing. The Steelers have, over the last, couple games, they're the 5th highest blitzing team. They blitz at the 5th highest rate of any team in football, and they've given up, 312 passing yards on blitzes. They're getting killed. There's an article on The Athletic that's a very good article, and it points out a lot of very good points related to why the Steelers defense is struggling. And one of the primary reasons is it's not a creative defense anymore.
No.
Everybody knows what they're doing, and they can scheme around it. Jamar Chase said it after the Bengals game. They did exactly what we expected them to do and we're hoping they would do. Of course, if they know what's coming, if they know what your scheme is going to be, all they have to do is plan how to beat it. And you don't have the creativity in adjusting to it. I mean, I don't want to say they don't make adjustments, but they don't make good adjustments right now. And that there's just a lack of creativity in using the pieces they have to the point where opposing offenses are not afraid of this defense.
Yeah, and you could, and they, you know, they don't ignore TJ Watt. I think TJ Watt is still a game wrecker, but no one else is stepping up in that spot. And I think that's where Herbig needs to be. If you get somebody else that could step up, and of course, like you were saying, they do send the blitz, but it's still not getting anywhere sometimes.
Right.
We've seen
doesn't get home.
Ramsey break through or something like that, but for the most part, it's still a hat on a hat. You would think when you're sending, you know, 5 or 6, somebody's got to break free, and nobody's breaking free, and that is problematic against. I mean, Shane Steichen. Still can't say that name together. It's like 3 times fast. Shane Steichen. He's an offensive-minded head coach, so he's a guy that's calling. He's calling some plays. He's you know, he's got them running like a well-oiled unit as far as that's concerned. What you need, Brian, is, I think, complementary football. And we've seen it in flashes from the Steelers. It's been better with Aaron Rodgers, who already has 16 touchdown passes this season. We saw Roman Wilson finally kind of emerge a little bit in the last game and be somebody that Rodgers can rely on in the pass game. And that's going to help maybe take some heat off of DK Metcalf, who, you know, drips and drabs. DK still has 5 touchdowns, which is, you know, that's a full season when George Pickens was here. 4 or 5 was the total that George was getting, period. I think maybe if they could run the football a little bit, the complementary part of this is you can't go out there and throw 3 incomplete passes and take 20 seconds off the play clock. You know what I mean? They've got in 2 minutes of real time where you've got some guys sucking wind, and now the defense is back on the field after just having 7 scored on them, and you get no chunks in the field position battle. That's what they've got to do. They got to get back to controlling the time of possession. They've also been on the wrong side of the turnover battle over the last few games as well. They have not created any splash plays whatsoever on the defensive side of the ball. And they've had some unlucky turnovers on offense. You know, there's ones that are always going to happen. And then there's like the real crazy fluke thing where, you know, there's the interception with DK Metcalf in the middle of catching the ball. It gets ripped from him and technically doesn't hit the ground. And then it's an interception on Rodgers' stat line. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if Samalo doesn't play, because a lot of the success has been predicated on playing Spencer Anderson as that extra offensive lineman. That's not going to be available because he is now going to fill in for Samalo, and you get to see the future of this young offensive line now sans, you know, their most veteran,
seasoned veteran.
Yeah,
seasoned veteran.
He is definitely a seasoned veteran, and get to see too, like, okay, they picked up like a Jack Driscoll on the practice squad. You've seen him, you know, bounce around here or there. Is this somebody? Do they coach him or Calvin Anderson, or who do they coach up to? Do they have another guy that's going to be that tackle eligible, or are they just going to have to change everything? Are they going to start playing 3 wides? Or are they going to trust the 5? You know, the 5 offensive linemen out there, you know, Broderick Jones by himself, Troy Fautanu by himself. Maybe you don't have to assist as much anymore. You're now in week 9. So maybe that's it. But don't forget, they got, you know, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, and Latu, and they got some guys that could come and bring the noise. The whole front, Kwity Paye, the whole front 7's great. Jermaine Pratt, you may remember him in the AFC North. Zaire Franklin, Mekhi Blackman. Really, it's their back end with Cam Bynum, Jonathan Edwards, and then Kenny. You got Kenny Moore, Nick Cross. Oh, I'm sorry, not Blackman, but Zaire Franklin, Jermaine Pratt, primarily their middle linebackers, and they still have Buddy Johnson kicking around too, which is kind of funny. He's deep on this roster after being drafted by the Steelers. Remember that name? So
yeah. I do.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. But the guys on the back end there with Blackman, Cross, Bynum, Edwards, and Moore is where I'm looking at. As much as I say that I would like them to run the football, it'd be nice if they could against this front seven. But as we've seen, the Colts have given up maybe more passing yards. Maybe it's because teams get behind that 8 ball and have to play more catch up throwing the ball. Maybe the Steelers can expose something. I will say I've watched very little of some of the Colts games this season because they're not the best games to watch. Their opponents, and you can only play who you play. But they have victories over the Dolphins, Broncos, and Titans. They lost a close game with the Rams, and then they've beaten the Raiders, Cardinals, Chargers, and then the second game with the Titans as well. There's a lot of mediocre teams, but they've also put up 29 or more on all but one of those games, and that was in the loss against the Rams.
Yeah, I look.
You're thinking the Steelers have been giving up 30 plus is what you're thinking.
What I'm thinking is, I'm trying very hard to find a ray of hope, but I just think this is going to be a disaster. I think that this is going to be a game after which there could be fallout. That's how bad I think this game could be.
I know, man. You can't sit here and confidently say anything, and I'm trying.
And saying that, they will probably shut the Colts out and win the game handily because there's no good reason for them to do so.
Well, that's because Pony's already said whatever he said, and he's written it into law. But you got the Colts, and then they're at the Chargers, and then they bring the Bengals back before going to the Bears, and then you get Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Browns, and then Ravens again. There's a lot of difficult games along the horizon.
I told you. I told you.
Well, we knew that. We knew that, and we also knew. This is what sticks in my craw.
It's going to be a hot mess.
Well, here's the hot mess that I don't like, and some people will disagree or whatever. Baltimore had some tough games to start their schedule, but they also got to play 3 in a row with the bye in the middle, all at home, even though they had been injured. And then they get to play after a bye week. They play at home, host the Bears, and then they go down to Miami. No weather or anything is going to bother you, but Miami and the Bears were already known to be mediocre teams heading into this, right? Everybody still thought the Browns might be competitive and the Bengals are a favorite to maybe even compete for a Super Bowl, and that's the way you stack the Steelers schedule up. You know what I mean? It doesn't sit well with me. And then I think after this mini bye, I'm trying to think who the Ravens, who they got next after this. So they get a lot of rest at the right time to ail some of their wounds. So then they go on the road again, and they have the Vikings and then the Browns. But give them like the Cleveland Browns, for example. Even though the Browns have been bad, the Browns will batter them on defense and then let them go to Miami. I mean, Miami really shot themselves in the foot more yesterday, and I don't know if that's some of the rust being worked out, not having Lamar there for a while. But this is wide open for the other teams to surpass or take the Steelers' lead. The Steelers had a chance to close the door. The Bengals game in particular, the Packers, I'll give them their flowers where due. But if the Steelers could have won that Bengals game, they create a little bit of more distance. Steelers just didn't look competitive the entire second half against the Packers, and they were only settling for field goals. You can't do this same thing against the Colts. I don't think it's going to work. And I think the Colts probably have, I'm not even going to say probably, they do, even though it's Josh Jacobs with the Packers and the Packers, Jordan Love, that run game with the Colts, Taylor will run all over you, and all you'll see is the back of his license plate. You'll see his jersey number as he's off in the distance. So I don't know how or what they do to contain this, because normally we'd say, hey, do this, do that. Any of the things that we've been talking about, they have not been able to demonstrate. They have not been able to demonstrate stopping the run with several of these teams. They haven't been able to stop the pass with several of these teams. Short passes have been killing them. Middle of the field's been killing them. Penalties, self-defeating penalties. They've got a lot of things to clean up. They haven't had a lot of time to try and figure it out. And as you start to play the rougher portion of your schedule, you just had Green Bay come into town. Now you got to play this 7-1 Colts team, and then you're looking off in the distance at a lot of other, there's no like real get right games that are left. I mean, by the time you get to Chicago, that might not be get right. You can't wait till that's week 15.
I know. That's the problem. This is, I've said this, I may have said this on the last show, but I definitely have said this to some other Steelers fans I know. This is looking like a 6-11 team. I see 2 wins left on the schedule. Maybe the Browns and maybe the Dolphins.
Yeah, my dude. I'm with you 100% of the way. I'm gonna be blue in the face
unless they figure it out. Like the problem
maybe
is
they can, because I mean they've just been playing. I'm gonna be kind of blunt about this. They've been playing like such shit. It's kind of hard to be any worse than they already have been.
It is, and that's absolutely difficult.
Yeah, that floor is rock bottom. They've hit rock bottom. So any kind of improvement.
Hope they've hit rock bottom.
Yeah, I don't know how can you hit any more rock bottom and giving up 30-some points in 4 or 5 games, and where they've been with this and the way. I don't know. I felt like they had the competitive juices flowing, and they found some ways to slow Green Bay. And I know some of it drop passes. It's also some of those drop passes are still, you get a hand and you get in the face of the quarterback. You're breathing down the receiver's neck, and you force that. You force that by virtue of at least being in position. The second half of the Packers game, I don't think anybody was in any position. People were just running free. Jamar Chase just before that, just running free. You've got a load of veterans, professionals, highly paid defensive players that should be able to sit in a room, and they bring experiences from all different places that should be able to figure this out. Whether they can or not is yours or my guess. So, well, what's the bobblehead got to say?
Let's see. Again, this has been picked by a randomizer, and I'm going to tell you the bobblehead says they're going to win the game, but he's absolutely insane.
He doesn't have a brain.
Yeah, well, he's a bobblehead. So, when you use a randomizer, there's 50-50 chance that it goes either way. So the bobblehead thinks they're going to win. I don't think they got a shot in hell.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this much, too. It's an AFC game. It's a home game. It's the Colts. Show me something. Even if it's not a victory, if they keep it close to the vest and they don't let's say they only give up like 18 points to the Colts, and they lose like 18-14 or something like that, that might show me something at least. As long as it's not because the offense turned the ball over 4 times or something like that. Close to the vest, and look like a competent football team, and then maybe we'll have a little more hope.
If the defense can play at the level they should be able to play, if they can execute correctly instead of making all of the mistakes that they continue to make, not playing like a group of seasoned veterans, not playing like at the skill level that they actually have on the team. If they can do that, right? If they can figure it out and play at a reasonable level, I'd be happy to see what happens at the end of the game with that. I just don't have any confidence that they're going to.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hear you. Same way. I was just looking to see if we got any further updates. And just a lot of stuff about a lot of other players, and the official transactions are now happening for the roster spots for Deshaun Elliott and Daniel Okwale going on IR, courtesy of Brian Batko, as we're here recording live as we're recording. So he thinks presumably those spots are going to Will Howard and Malik Harrison, and I think Harrison has to be activated. I don't really know what they do with Harrison, because I don't think he moves the needle anywhere. I'd rather play Holcomb,
not even a little.
But yeah, you're not going to put him as an edge rusher. I think Jack Sawyer's been just fine. Again, play Herbig a little bit more. Steelers got the official transactions here. You got Kyle Duggar. Let's see how much he plays. Let's see how he's integrated. Let's see if he brings a spark. I'm kind of excited about that versus the alternative. I thought they had more depth here in the secondary and with the safeties than what I actually thought. I was terrified of just the thought of going with what they already had, and it didn't look good. And we also got to know that that's a component of some of what was going on Sunday night too, against the Packers, losing Sayamalo and losing Elliott, having to make those adjustments in game. I think that is something you could at least plan or adjust for in the 3 days or so of practice that they were having ahead of the Colts matchup. So I have no predictions for this, Brian. As the woman would say, I just hope both teams have fun. So
I think one of the teams is going to have a lot of fun.
We shall see, my friend. We shall see. So, folks, thank you for tuning in, listening, or watching wherever you may be. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name's Joe, and his name is Brian. Here we go, Steelers. It's like one of those, like, here we go, like Eeyore. Like
it sort of feels like I just don't want it to be here we go again. That's what I want.
Only if it's white snake, my friend. Only if it's white snake. I know. Going down the only road I've ever known. And that seems to be the case here for us in Steelers Nation. So that'll do it for us, folks. Close out the show as we always do. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. We have nothing else for the 2%ers. I mean, we're just I should say at least the 2%ers that dropped in the comments. I didn't get a chance to respond to everyone, but I told you I would probably agree with all of you, and I do. There was a whole bunch of it, except for one guy. It was like, the usual.
Except the guy who thought we were making Tomlin excuses, and I'm like, I don't think we're making Tomlin
not necessarily excuses. Tomlin excuses. The thing is, if Mike Tomlin's not your head coach, you probably lose more games, because I think at least Mike Tomlin's got some experience and knows how to manage some of this stuff. You know what I mean? He gets a lot out of nothing sometimes, but he's getting a lot of nothing out of a lot right now. It's the exact opposite.
I just want to say I'm not going to worry about Mike Tomlin, because I know how the Rooneys operate, right? So I'm not going to waste a lot of breath saying Tomlin should go, or Tomlin's going to stay, or Tomlin's great, or Tomlin's not great. I think Mike Tomlin has been a consistently very good coach, but the defense has continually slid, and if his fingerprints are all over it, then that's a problem with Mike Tomlin. But I don't know that. I only know, I don't know who's actually putting this scheme together. And as more head coaches will tell you than not, the head coach position is so reliant on their coordinators, because you're really a manager more than you are a coach. You're managing a whole slew of things within your team, and you're not really diving into the day-to-day intricacies of the defense or the offense, unless that happens to be your ballywick. So I don't know. I just can't speculate.
Well, what about this? They talk about, there's two narratives that are out there, that are the Rooneys are cheap and Tomlin won't hire anyone that will overshadow or show him up. And I was in reference to Brian Flores in particular, and going to the Vikings, and I'm like, have you paid attention to what the Vikings are? The Vikings don't look very sharp on defense right now, and they're doing the same kind of things. The things that were working for them, because the offense was clicking a little more when they had Sam Darnold last year, and they're putting up some points, the zero blitzes and the things like that. Those things are all being exposed right now, and there's film on it now. But there's somebody that went as far as to not even say him, Flores as DC, but they were talking about him as a head coach, and he was not the best when it comes to being a head coach. Of course, that's with a very you should say there's controversy with his tenure in Miami for me to fully say that, but you see it all the time with coordinators that get called up. Arthur Smith, who's the current offensive coordinator, hot hire, hot hand. And you even see this with Shane Steichen. Look how long it's taken him just to get the Colts to where it's at right now. A lot of people thought that maybe he's on the hot seat. There's been some more stability, particularly in the AFC North, but when you look around the league and you look at the different coaches and you look at the ones, even Mike McCarthy, who's jobless right now, they were pointing out on SiriusXM NFL Radio even just yesterday. They were talking about Tomlin, they were talking about John Harbaugh ahead of the Thursday night game, of course. They're talking about McCarthy. They're talking about why can't I think of his name? Sean Payton. I might be missing one coach in here. There's like 4 or 5 guys that all have, like about a 65% regular season win percentage. They all have about within 1 win or 1 loss playoff, the same record. They all have exactly 1 Super Bowl victory, and they all have to contend with playing against guys like Bill Belichick and Andy Reid over the course of all of this, who have had a tremendous amount of success. And I said, you know what, they definitely hit the nail on the head, and you've got some fans that are impatient, because there's fans that were calling for John Harbaugh's head is where this came up. Of course, yeah. And they brought Tomlin into conversation about being longer tenured and having that kind of span of consistency, and it's like, that's the reason why these guys stay where they are. They had just had somebody comment and said trade Tomlin. It's like, for what? There's somebody out there talking about John Gruden, and if you want a playoff victory,
I saw that. That's not
ridiculous. That's not the guy that you want, because John Gruden had gone like 10 seasons since he's had like a postseason victory. So I'll leave that I'll leave that to simmer in everyone's brains that, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Once again, folks, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for supporting Steel City Underground wherever you're watching or listening. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. Until next time, we encourage everyone out there, please be safe. Please be good out there trick-or-treating. Don't light anything on fire on Sunday, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.